Hello, everyone. Welcome back to session 2, What Makes an Age-Friendly Workplace? I hope you managed to get a wee bit of coffee, maybe some biscuits, and fuel yourself up for this next session, which I'm really looking forward to with Dr. Martin Hyde, the Associate Professor in Gerontology at Swansea University. Dr. Martin Hyde has got such a plethora of research behind him and is such an expert that I really don't know how to introduce him because he's just got such an awesome body of work behind him. And I think you're going to be truly blessed by what he shares. And it will be another interactive and lively session. Over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much, Daisy. Bodada to everyone. Thank you again for such a tremendous turnout. So we're going to change gears slightly between this morning's amazing session where we've looked really at sort of that wider environment and what elements can facilitate happy and healthy aging, to focus a bit more on work, partly because work fulfills a major part of our lives, but also because the over 50s will soon make up about a third of the workforce across the UK. So it's incredibly important for us to think about how we support people in work, but also because the expectation is that we will be working until later in life. So as we're probably aware, state pension age is slowly increasing and looks like it might increase even further. And there's lots of campaigns in order to support what is called a fuller working life strategy. One of the central components in all of this then is, well, what should work look like to make these ambitions possible? And there's been lots of work written about age-friendly workplaces, about working conditions in later life, and about the impact of retiring on health and well-being. But what we are really interested in today is your opinions and your ideas about this. Just like in the first session, we're very keen to find out what you think about what can be done to create these age-friendly, age-positive, supportive workplaces. So again, as in the first session, if you'd like to put any ideas that you have in the chat, we can circle back to them after this presentation or after the end of the session. I am also very excited to hear the other speakers in the session addressing a very important issue around sort of menopause at the workplace, an issue that has gone from being almost invisible to one that is now quite being at least being kind of talked about and addressed and kind of raised. So I thought, really, rather than try to present lots and lots of research to get us going, is really to kind of draw on an excellent study that was undertaken by the Centre for Aging Better, where they've produced what is quite a sort of nice, accessible 5-point plan for what age-friendly workplaces can look like. So I sort of really tip my hat to the work that's been done then, but really is an opportunity to stimulate discussion and debate amongst the participants here. And a little bit of background really about why this is important. It's important for the national economy. Like I said, the proportion of older workers is going to increase over time. And every, being able to facilitate an increase in people's work in later life has quite significant benefits for the national economy. So older workers are incredibly important. They produce a lot. They have great value for the economy. I think, again, that's a message that needs to be shouted out more loudly. Unfortunately, we know that as we get closer to state pension age, the proportion of people in work declines. So people in their sort of 50s, around about half are still in work. And by the time you get to age 65, it's just about a third of people in work. So there's still quite a lot of people who are dropping out of work well in advance of state pension age. So the recommendations that the Centre for Aging Better have come up with through their research are that employers can be better at providing flexible types of work. And there's lots of good research that shows that flexible working conditions that allow people to manage different demands in their life, particularly caring responsibilities, but also being able to more gradually retire. So rather than thinking about having to work up until a certain age and then having to go through what used to be called cliff edge retirement, so just moving straight from work into retirement, but gradually managing that process allows people to work for longer, enjoy their work more, and remain healthier later in life. Unfortunately, the little bit of research that I did that Julie Morgan mentioned in her talk for the national strategy showed that older workers in Wales in particular don't feel that there are that many opportunities for flexible working at present. So I think there's work that can be done in Wales in this regard. Another big issue is the experience of ageism, particularly for workers who are looking to change jobs or come back from unemployment into work. There's lots of sort of unconscious bias in advertising for jobs, using terms like digital natives or energetic, go-getter, which older job applicants often feel discriminates against them and indicates that employers are looking for younger recruits. So employers need to do more to ensure that they have age positive or age neutral language that doesn't exclude people from applying for jobs. Health is a key issue. I said earlier that around about half of people from their 50s onwards are not in work, and health problems are the main driver for people to not be in work in later life, and a major issue that people cite for problems in getting back into work once they've left work. So if employers can do more to ensure healthy workplaces, and that work is health promoting rather than damaging to health, then people are more likely to be able to stay in work for longer, less likely to be forced out of work, and when they do eventually leave work and enter retirement, are more likely to do so healthier, happier, and therefore have a happy and healthy retirement as well. So we know that work is a major contributor to our well-being. It's not just the financial reward we get from work. We get lots of other what are called vitamins from work: social interaction, sense of purpose, some sense of our identity. But when work starts to overload us, either physically, we have very hard, physically demanding jobs. People don't get any respite from those, or very stressful psychological jobs that can lead to burnout or kind of mental health problems. Then we start to see work having a negative impact on older workers and ultimately into retirement as well. Also trying to encourage employers to think about career development across the life course. And again, this is an area that has gone from being very marginal now to one that is getting lots of traction. And I'm very happy to say that Business in the Community Cymru are leading on this with colleagues at Age Northern Ireland and Age Scotland, and have a big kind of age at work program looking at what are called midlife MOTs, so opportunities for people in their 40s and 50s to really think about where their careers might want to go. If we are expected to work until our late 60s, early 70s, we need to think what's going to keep us engaged and happy and motivated for those extra 20 or 30 years of our working lives. Also trying to think about having lots more training opportunities for older workers. So I wrote a report for the UK government back in 2015, which showed that older workers felt that they were less likely to be offered training than younger workers. So I think there's still, unfortunately, a sort of a hangover of the you can't teach old dogs new tricks mentality when employers think about giving training opportunities out, and older workers tend to be overlooked in that regard. And finally, about creating age positive cultures at work. So again, I think trying to move away from thinking just about older workers as a separate group, but thinking more about age diverse workplaces. I think that's where we're sort of really moving in this regard. So trying to create more diverse and inclusive workplaces in general. I think there's been lots of attention paid to things like gender imbalances and ethnic inequalities at work, and age is one of those other protected characteristics that we need to consider when we look at the makeup of our workforce, and trying to encourage more opportunities for that intergenerational interaction that really helps people from all generations. Means that you have more creative work groups, you have more opportunities for discussion and exchange of ideas, and you have sort of more resilient workforces as well, because you have a much greater range of kind of skills and abilities. So there's lots that employers can do for this. Again, so things like looking at how you represent your workforce in things like your company brochures. Do you have positive representations of people from different age groups. Look at the language that you're using, again, in your internal communications to your employees. Is it something that encourages people to think about members of other age groups in a kind of a positive and respectful way? So again, none of this is, I don't think, particularly problematic. And the booklet that the Centre for Aging Better has produced, which I would recommend people go and have a look at, gives some strategies for how employers can do this. But I will say that whilst this is a great step forward, I think there's still a lot to be done in this space. So I'm very interested to kind of hear what people's ideas are in regard to that before we move on to the other presenters from this session. So I see that we have a number of posts in the chat. So thank you very much for that, which I'm happy to come back to. And I think, again, some of this does, again, sort of overlap with the sessions that were, or this morning's session. Think about, well, what are those vital ingredients that we need across all aspects of our sort of aging journey to ensure that we sort of have a good, positive experience in later life. And I think they overlap massively. I think having good transport access and a good journey to work improves your sense of well-being when you get to the office or the workplace. But actually, sort of when you get there, what are you looking to have? So we've posted a few questions, and again, we'd be very interested in taking your ideas for these. But just to say as well, we've already got a few chats. Yes, so someone has posted about working in Scandinavia. So Alan, I'm very lucky that I used to work in Sweden. I spent 2 years working at Stockholm University, or 2.5 years working at Stockholm University. And it has to be said that the Scandinavian countries have been very forward thinking on a number of what we call sort of age management policies. So flexible working. There's a company called Vattenfall in Norway, which is the big water hydro power company. And they had I think they called it 80, 90, 100. So policy where after a certain age, you could work for 80% of the time for, I can't remember what it was 80% of your time for 90% of something for 100% of your pay. So you were able to sort of manage that gradual exit into retirement, which has been shown in research to have positive outcomes for both work and retirement. And again, that goes into the point that Daisy just made then about ensuring good opportunities to be able to provide care. I will say, because I'm currently reviewing the policies around employment for the what are called the sort of high income countries for the Organization of Economic Cooperation and Development, the OECD. And the UK actually doesn't do too badly in terms of providing policies for sort of support people providing care in later life. So things like the carer's passport that's been introduced as a way to kind of recognize that. I mean, I think there's a lot more that could be done, but and like I said, the data that we had from the National Survey for Wales suggested that a lot of, well, only about 40% of workers felt there were opportunities for flexible working in Wales. Yeah, and thanks to Gareth, I didn't want to sort of feel like I was advertising another conference at this conference. But yeah, BITC Cymru or BITC are having their Age at Work conference on the 9th of March, where I will be speaking as well. But I think kind of slightly more excitingly, so will Ruby Wax, who I know again has been doing a lot of work around kind of mental health and menopause in the workplace. So again, something that connects with the next speakers in this session. Yes, digital skills, again, I think that's an issue that's going to become even more crucial as we move to a much more kind of digital workplace. I think one of the big sort of challenges that's come up from working from home has been the stress that it's put on people's digital skills, and has exposed the fact that lots of older workers in particular feel that they haven't been invited onto courses or involved in courses that promote digital skills, because it's seen as something that is more I don't know, that younger people are sort of just better at, and therefore it would be more difficult to kind of teach older workers. So certainly anecdotal evidence that I've had from talking to older workers suggests that's the case. But again, like I said, the report we did in 2015 shows that across the piece, for all training provided by, or all employer-based training, older workers are less likely to be offered it, less likely to ask for it, and then interestingly, less likely to do it as well, which again people have suggested might be due to kind of internalized ageism. So one of the reasons why older workers said they were less likely to take on courses or do courses was because they themselves felt that they were too old to learn something new. So there's that sort of going back to the age positive culture in the workplace, sort of making sure that everybody feels valued regardless of their age and other characteristics. And therefore people don't exclude themselves from those opportunities as well. So again, I think there's broader work that needs to be done around challenging kind of age stereotypes.